is the line going into the Mexican side. There's never been a line here.
Guns, bullets.
No guns, no bullets. Got a bunch of equipment I just dug out from under the bed. My friend Jeff is working on installing. He's installing a secondary electrical system. Come on. Okay. Hi everyone. I hope y'all are doing great today. Oh Lord, he's already wrapped around the shower. Watch how good I am at this. You pull this out, put his cord the correct path, and then whoop. Guess how many times I've done that this winter season? It's probably in the triple digits, but that's okay. I've got a bunch of equipment I just dug out from under the bed. My friend Jeff is working on installing. He's installing a secondary electrical system, but he now has a utility trailer that he's towing behind. And he's building an electrical system in that, just as a secondary system, so that if needed, he could basically camp right out of that small trailer. So he contacted me. Him and I were talking about this like back last summer, actually. And he was spitballing some ideas. And I said, well, I've got some leftover. You can see this is 2-aught cable. And this is left over from when I did my lithium battery installation. Obviously, I ordered way more than I needed. You know, this kind of cable is, this is not cheap. I mean, this is full copper, 2-aught. I brought these are my large cutters for cutting this kind of cable. And then in here, this is my hydraulic crimper for putting the lugs on the end of this cable. That's why this is all sitting here, so that Jeff can come over and borrow it today. Wow, that's bright. What I wanted to talk about is my friend Jeff, my friend David, and we took a trip down to Mexico a few days ago, and oh my gosh, it was the absolute craziest experience. We came out of that like looking at each other like, what the heck did we just go through? We're on our way down to Mexico today. I'm leading the convoy. Neither of them have been down here before, so I'm showing them the way. Jeff's gonna visit the dentist, and David wants to come just because he's never been. And I'm going just for something to do. We're gonna have a good meal down there. Buy some inexpensive antibiotics and things like that. Okay. Oh, always look at the dribbles every time he drinks out of his water bowl, and then he slobbers into my slippers. Not his fault. Not his fault. So while I was just putting this video together, I realized that if this border crossing issue, I don't know what you want to call it, if this continues and people are no longer able to get across the border to get medications, if you remember back years ago, I was in Colorado and I had a sinus infection so bad that I felt terrible. And luckily, Mom had handed me a bottle of leftover antibiotics. Like, I was literally on my way out the door leaving New York, and she's like, here, do you want these? And thank goodness for Mom, because I took those antibiotics. I looked them up and they were good for sinus infections. I took those, and within like the next day after, boom, I was repaired. So I was so glad that I had those antibiotics. If you don't have access to a doctor, or if you can't easily get a hold of, basic antibiotic medications, You can sign up with Jace Medical. You answer some basic questions about your health, and then they send you a Jace case, and it has 5 of the most common antibiotics that you can have shipped right to your house. But in the years since I first worked with Jace, they've expanded and they now offer all kinds of medications. But if it turns out that this border crossing issue continues, save those links that I have, save my discount code, because you may need to use it. I may need to use it if I can't get medications going across the border. So let's jump back to the video. So we just passed the agricultural check station. They don't check you on southbound here, but they do check you going northbound. So on the way back, we might have to stop. Half the time it's closed and you just drive on by, but you know, every once in a while you do have to stop for them. So we're in the proving grounds right now. This is the Army proving grounds. We're about 55 miles away from the border crossing right now. Normally when you go down to Mexico, we just park our vehicles in the parking lot. I put Lefty comfortably in the rig. I always park so that the cab is pointed away from the sun. He just basically lays down and goes to sleep in his chair, or my chair in the cab. I leave the fan on for him, the windows cracked a little, full bowl of water, and he stays comfortable in there. And we weren't gone too long on this trip because of what happened. Yeah, so, you know, Chris is back, Bobby is back, my friend David is still here. We still have Pam, my friend Mike, who's out there. My friend John is over there somewhere. Believe me, I just can't see it. The sun is so bright. They have my friend Jeff that I was just talking about. He's out there. Tony is still way down at the end, right out there. We got there, and when we got to the parking lot, you know, you pay your toll to park there. And the young lady at the toll booth, she said, I just want to let you know, there's going to be about an hour wait to walk into Mexico across the border. Hello.
Hi. I just want to let you know ahead of time it's about an hour wait to get into Mexico.
Oh, what's going on?
They're checking people coming in, the federales.
And she said, oh, the federales are checking people. And I'm like, oh, okay, you know, it's not the end of the world. We've already driven an hour and a half down here. So the 3 of us drive on through, we get parked, and we're kind of talking about that. And I'm like, well, you know, normally you just walk right through. And I said, well, look at the parking lot. There's not even that many people. For that time of day, the parking lot was not very full. And come to find out, the reason that the parking lot wasn't very full is because a lot of people, when they heard there was going to be a wait, they either decided they're not going to Mexico that day and they turned around and left, or they decided to drive across, because if you drove across, there was like no wait at all. You could get in your car, boom, right across the border and be there in a minute. But I'm looking at the parking lot and I said to the guys, I said, well, even if all these people are in line, it's not going to be that bad. Oh my gosh, was it bad. We walked down the little... And you know, anybody that's been there, you get to the edge of the parking lot and you walk down the ramp to then turn right and go across the border. Well, when we got to the edge of the parking lot, there is a line that goes all the way down. That line was easily, well, it was over a quarter of a mile long. All right, I'm going to try to give you some context on what we're talking about here. So this is the overview of the parking area and the border crossing. Now, this is only showing a portion of the parking area. We actually park quite a bit farther away from where you're seeing those vehicles right there. And then right here, that circle, that's the actual border crossing where you cross from the US into Mexico. That red arrow, that's where we normally walk from the parking lot. There's a ramp that you walk down to the lower level. You turn right and you head towards that border crossing circle, and there's never a line. You just kind of casually walk along there. You go through a little turnstile, and then you're at the border crossing. But instead, when we got to that ramp and saw that line in front of us, we had to take a left because the line was very long, And we went all the way down to that second arrow, took a left, and that's the actual entrance to the parking area, and had to walk up the entrance driveway because that's where the line went. And the three of us ended up at the end of the line about, like I said, a quarter of a mile from the border crossing. We were not having any fun at this point and were quite confused about what we were going to do. Now, while this is all happening, right in that elliptical red area there, that turnaround area, all these dental companies, that's where they were having their vans come out, their shuttle vans, and do a U-turn and pick people up and then drive them back across the border into Mexico to get their dental work done. So we kind of made our way. The line didn't really shorten any, it just kind of condensed itself, and we got up to where we were standing in that little turnaround area eventually. We had to walk pretty far to get to be in the back of the line. And this line was not single file. This line was, people go down there in groups. So the line was like 5, 6, 8 people wide. There was a lot of people in this line. And I'm like, holy cripes, this is, I don't know. So we stood there and hemmed and hawed and tried to figure out what we're gonna do. And the whole time, we're having conversations with other people, like people that were coming out, that were leaving Mexico, heard us talking about, what the heck's going on. So they stopped and said, yeah, what they're doing is they're making everyone fill out visa applications, paperwork, to be able to cross into Mexico. People that were coming out were saying that they stood in the line for 2 hours, 2.5 hours, from early that morning. So now we're like, I don't know what we're going to do. We're trying to figure out, should we all pile into one of our vehicles? But that means, like, Jeff and I both had our dogs with us, so that was a problem. But the whole time this is happening and we're in this line, this like melee of people, the dental companies are having shuttles come out and pick up their customers so the customers don't have to wait in the line. And so everybody's picking up on this and bum rushing these organizers that are getting these customers ready for the shuttle to come around. They're bum rushing them, saying, hey, can I get in your van? Can I get in your truck to get across the border? And they were being as accommodating as they could. This one guy that I kept talking to, they had 2 vehicles that kept doing a circle, picking people up, crossing the border, coming back out, picking more people up. And I'm like, hey, can you get 3 of us in there? And he's like, I got 4 people for this car, and the next car's already got 6. And so I kind of gave up on him. And at that point, the line really hadn't moved, but it had kind of organized itself. So by funneling thinner, it moved people forward. So I stayed back to where all these cars, these dental vans were coming out, while David and Jeff kind of went on with the flow of the line. They were only 50 feet ahead of me. So I'm trying to figure out, can I get one of these dental shuttle vans to take 3 dudes across the border? And then finally I see this one white van, minivan, and a guy driving it, and he comes out and he got out, he was calling out a name, like a customer's name, obviously. And it was like Phil something. So I'm like, hey, Phil, like calling over to David and Jeff, like that was us, but the guy who he was calling actually came out of the crowd. And so they piled in, and the guy did the U-turn, and he was going to start driving to go across the border into Mexico. And I just walked out to the van, and I kind of waved to him, and he rolled his window down, and I said, hey, can you get 3 of us in here? I'll pay you whatever you want and get us across there. And he's like, well, I got to, he goes, you're going to have to sit way in the back, because it was like a 3-row minivan. And he's like, you're going to have to sit way in the back. And I'm like, that's fine. Guys, I yell over to him, and I said, come on. So they come running over, and the 3 of us, we flip the second row seats forward, and we all pile into the back. And then all the other people, the customers, maybe other people had done the same thing with the guy, because it was kind of chaotic, So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of us were in that van to go across the border. This van ride, I mean, we are all just in the van, just like, holy cripes, I can't believe what's going on. Then we get to the checkpoint, the actual, like, you know, Mexican federales, and it was kind of a joke. Well, at least we got a way in, though. This is way better than waiting in that line.
Oh, no doubt.
Thank goodness for this guy.
Yeah, that's where we would have been. Just inside the turnstile.
I just got him to stop, and I got very lucky.
No, he
does
patience.
Yeah.
For a 7-day passport coming
So this is like the check-in here.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, now they got soldiers all
But they even...
They just checked me, checked the van.
Okay.
I don't care.
Everybody hide your pistolas.
They'll get over it. Oh, yeah. Oh, that's a pretty one.
It's me again with more people
Oiga, pues ¿cuánto lleva?
going to the dentist.
¿Qué?
Okay.
¿Cómo te va?
Now you can open it, honey.
¿Alguien habla español?
I'm tired. I've been standing in the line for 2 years.
No, only English.
No,
How are you
English.
doing? ¿Cómo está?
Bien, bien. ¿Usted cómo está?
Hola.
Hola, hola.
Guns,
Hola, hola.
Guns, bullets.
No.
No guns, no bullets.
Seguro.
No. Glasses?
Gracias, señor.
Gracias. That was like half a joke to them, you know.
Yeah, I know.
Gracias, señores. In unison, I said. Señoritas.
You can open it, honey.
See, there's the wall.
Where does the line go?
Señores.
It comes out right here. Right here is where the line comes out.
Look at there's nobody.
And
Nobody here?
there's no people coming through there.
Wow, I feel sorry for the business owners. They're losing a ton of money.
Well, this will not stay.
This is...
Nah,
I'm
they
so
lose
glad
more
I
than us,
flagged
that's
this
for
guy
sure.
down. Holy smokes.
I would think it would make a lot of.
It was a young lady and a gentleman, young federales, and they're kind of looking in, and the girl goes, the young lady says, like, Spanish, speak Spanish? And we're all like, no hable española. And then she's smiling and really, really nice young girl. And then she goes, any pistolas, bullets, you know, like laughing. And we're like, no, nothing back here. The federale, the guy, he goes around and they pop the back hatch, and all that was back there was a pillow. And I'm at the back seat, so I'm watching him behind me, and he just like flips the pillow and he's laughing and he goes, oh, okay. And they shut the back hatch, and we all said thank you and gracias. You know, that's as much Spanish as I think we all knew. And we drove and went across the border, and we were in Mexico. You know, and this guy that was driving, when he rolled the window down, and he says, yeah, these are all dental customers. And the girls, the federale, she's like laughing like, okay, because I'm pretty sure like 8 minutes earlier, he had just brought, you know, 6 other dental customers across the border. So all of these dental vans and just regular people that were driving across the border, like this one guy in his pickup truck, just by himself, he was just going to drive into Mexico, and a woman tapped on his window and talked to him, and pretty soon her 5 other friends, all of them piled into this guy's pickup truck, and he drove them across the border. So we got from standing in that line with a possible multi-hour wait to a 3-minute drive, and we were across the border and in Mexico. And the guy that's driving the van, he's like, okay, I got to pull over and let these 3 guys out, because we weren't actual customers going to their office. So he pulled over and let us out. And then they went on, you know, around the block to the actual dentist's office. And we got out of that, and we're looking at each other like, what did we just go through? And I paid the gentleman $20. I tipped him because he saved our day. He basically, I don't think we would have ended up going across, because that line was just insane. So we all tipped him $20. So he made out pretty well. You know, I'm sure he did pretty good that day. And this poor old guy, you know, he was an American, you could tell, and he was obviously contracted to shuttle these dental customers back and forth, but he probably didn't know what he was getting into that day. So what we learned from talking with other people that had gone through that process, they were making people fill out paper visa applications. They said that the federales that were doing this, they didn't really have any idea. They didn't have a system set up because they had just implemented this, like, I don't know if it was that day, because one guy said that he had just been down there the day before and there was none of this. So it was like that day they decided to do this. And the guys that were implementing it, they didn't know, they didn't have a system. And I was making jokes about it, like, you know, that they've got this stack of paper forms, they don't know why. Can you imagine, like, people having to fill out a document, a government document, and having questions about the document, and the guys that are collecting the document have no idea, they can't really answer the questions? I can just imagine what that must have looked like up in that little pass-through building, because it's a very small little pass-through. And what I did notice is, as we drove across the border in the van and looked at where people normally are coming through, nobody was coming through. Like, so I don't know if they were moving one person every 5 minutes through that visa application area, but we didn't see any people at all coming through there and getting released across the border. So after we had finished what we were doing, and so now I'm like concerned about what's it going to look like coming back across into the US. So that's where you normally have to stand in, you know, a very long line. Like when Tony and I went down to get his dental work done, I stood in that line for over an hour. It's not unusual for an hour, 2 hours to stand in the line to get back into the US. We go over there, there was no line at all. Well, there were like 5 people in front of us. So we were able to get back across to the US really quick. And the reason is because nobody was getting into Mexico because their line was, you know, half a mile long. So nobody was down there. So there was nobody to come back. But while we were in that line, a really nice young lady behind me, she said, "Hey, you're the Campulence man." I said, yes, I am. Guilty. But she said she got in the line to go into Mexico at 7:30 that morning, 3.5 hours. She waited in that line. She was picking up a pair of glasses that she had made for her. 3.5 hours to get into Mexico, 5 minutes to go pick up her glasses that were waiting for her. And then now she was back in the very short line to get back into the US. But another woman that was right behind her said that she got there. She also said it was just before 7:30 that morning, and there was no line going into Mexico. So they must have like started doing that like right at 7:30, because at 7:28, that first woman was able to walk right through, but at 7:30, that poor woman. Oh, and thank you for saying hi, by the way. That poor thing had to wait 3.5 hours to get across the border. Unbelievable. Crazy. And now here's the real kicker. There's a little bit more of the border wall. We're just talking about how this morning was quite an adventure. Having to flag down and get rogue rides from a dental van, paying off the driver.
Paying off the driver and getting the cleaning was still cheaper.
Yeah, very, very good point. Jeff got a good teeth cleaning. We paid the driver, and we came out under $100 total for all of that. So, oh look, the line is.
Oh, they said they started moving the line. Somebody was saying.
I think they got tired of the slowdown. We're going this way.
Well, they were requiring paperwork, but she said, yeah, they eventually just said, go on through.
Yeah, they got tired. I think they figured out that this was not going to work with them requiring paperwork, so they just started waving everybody through. When we got back into the US and came out through the little corral system and we're back out to where the line going to Mexico was, that half a mile long line, it was gone. Because we heard that at about at some point in the late morning, they decided just they couldn't do it anymore because it was such a cluster. So they were just now letting people cross into Mexico again without having to fill out a visa application. So my joke was, yeah, I bet you like they had to print out the forms and their printer ran out of toner or jammed up, so they couldn't print out any more visa forms. So they couldn't people fill out the paperwork anymore. And from the sounds of it, that very well may be exactly what happened, because it was just a shit show. The whole thing was absolutely insane what we went through. Seeing that giant line, flagging down and getting in a dental van to get across the border, you know, and then hearing all these people's stories of waiting hours and hours. We just picked the worst day to go to Mexico. At least at that border crossing. I don't know what they were doing at all the other ones, but there was a lot of conversation in the lines about this is obviously having to do with the political situation between the U.S. and Mexico. And, you know, and we don't talk politics here on the channel. You all know that. But I obviously, I've got to agree somewhat that it is some kind of like, oh yeah, you're going to do that, we're going to do this kind of thing. But I don't know that it was implemented very well, because if they're going to, you know, if you're going to do a system like that, you got to have a really good infrastructure in place. I'm talking, you know, multiple agents, people that can answer questions. If they're going to be doing visa applications, you have to have that information out there so that people coming down know what they have to do when they get down there. I don't think you can just turn it on and expect the two guys at the desk to all of a sudden also be visa application approval experts, you know? So that was our trip to Mexico the other day. Quite a contrast from just several weeks ago when Tony and I went down there, but Banana City, holy bananas. What a crazy, crazy day. Great story, though. We got a great story out of it. I don't know that we'll ever go through that again. Hijacking rides on a dental shuttle van. Absolutely nuts, I'll tell you. All right, everyone, thank you for being here with us today. Everybody take care, be safe, and we'll see y'all again real soon. And if you're going down to cross into Mexico, just be aware that right now, I think you never know what you're going to get.
Sir?
Yeah.
And the dog?
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Have a good day. Okay. Okay. That's a boy. Look at this lazy slob. He is just crashed. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I wake you up? I'm getting ready to get into bed, buddy. Okay? Okay.